Welcome to Artistry Effects for Photoshop. In this tutorial, we'll look at how to create a Norman Rockwell style painting in Photoshop from your photographs. Let's jump on into Photoshop and see how this effect works. This effect comes in two template orientation files. We have, as shown on screen here, a horizontal landscape orientation file, and this effect also includes a portrait orientation file as well. So to get your own photograph into the template to work the effect, all we need to do is double click on the top layer thumbnail right here, not on the text itself, just on the thumbnail here to open up a smart object layer. And with the smart object layer open here, all we need to do is place our own image. We do that by going to the menu File, Place Embedded, and choose an image that you would like to work with. Now, if you are familiar with Norman Rockwell works, you may notice that a lot of his paintings have very expressive expressions on the people's faces. So I'm going to choose this photograph right here, and as we place it by clicking on the place button here, and you'll see there's a lot of expression in this photo here. So we have, when we place the file, these anchor points that allow us to reposition and enlarge or reduce the image to fit the frame. So I think for this one, I'm going to bring it up a little bit and maybe center them a little bit right here. And finally, to place the file into the template, we just need to click the little check mark here. That places the photograph into the template. And to run the effect, all we need to do is close the Smart Object layer and save it. We close that by clicking the little X on the Smart Object layer right here, and we click Save, and Photoshop will automatically run this effect for us. Okay, and there we have our Norman Rockwell style effect on this image. It looks pretty good out of the box, just like this, but we can make some optional refinements to this as well. So we'll just go through the layers palette right here, and we can toggle open the optional controls layer group right here. And inside we have color control, we have a Rockwell tones, which is the sort of signature toning that Norman Rockwell used in his paintings. And we have a levels control as well for things like contrast adjustments. Any of these you can turn on and off their visibility to see how they affect the image. So there's the Rockwell tones going on and off. Levels, that's the contrast. We can see how it adjusts the contrast as well. And for any of these, if you wanted to make further refinements, there's two ways of doing it. We can click on one of the layers. So let's say the Rockwell tones layer. Let's say we don't want it off, but with it on, it's a little bit too strong. We can reduce the opacity of that layer to sort of soften the effect. So instead of being so strong at 100%, now it's more subtle at 70%. We can also double click on any of the swatches here, the adjustment layer icons. So double clicking on the color control adjustment layer icon brings up these controls here. And you have the ability to do things like increase saturation, decrease saturation, or we can selectively, let's say skin tones usually show up in the reds. So we can go with the reds. Maybe we want to reduce the saturation of the skin tones. We can go back to the full color and bump up the saturation of the full rest of the colors. So a few different ways to play with these optional control layers. We also have Rockwell noise, which just kind of ties the image together. There's sort of a noise overlay. If we zoom in, you can see the effect of that with toggling that on and off like that. And we also have a canvas, a simulated canvas for the image. Again, you can turn that on and off. Right now it's set at 20%, so it's pretty subtle, but if we increase the opacity, you can see canvas really comes through like that. And of course, that is to your liking, whether you want to have the canvas look on or off. I think for this one, it's not too bad actually, but maybe it's a little strong at 100. Let's go down to about 50. And I like that look. Okay, we'll close up the optional controls layer group here, and then we can dive into the Rockwell effect layer group to see what things we can play with. So we have the lines, which are sort of like outline strokes on the image. If you want to see what they look like by themselves, you could hold down the Alt or Option key and click on the visibility icon, and that shows what that layer contains. So you can see it's just some detailed line strokes right there. And if we toggle them on and off, they're not going to have a huge impact on this particular image, but they're set at 75%, so you can bump it up to 100% if you want to see a little bit more. There, we're seeing a little bit of effect on the image right now. We have midtone contrast, which is sort of a signature feature of Norman Rockwell paintings. You'll see if we toggle that on and off, it kind of gives it more of a painterly look to have that on. And again, you can play with the opacity of that to your liking. The Rockwell paint layer is the actual painted effect that we're running. But one of the things, if you look at Norman Rockwell paintings, is there's a sense of realism to them where you're almost questioning, is this a painting or a photograph? Now, looking at this, it doesn't entirely look like it could be a photograph. And the giveaway for that here is usually when we're running this effect, it's usually in the eyes. The eyes don't quite look like photographic enough. They look like they're painted in some sort of style. So I have here this layer mask right here in white. If we click on the layer mask, so not on the thumbnail of the layer, but click on the layer mask to activate it. And then if we activate the brush tool by clicking B on the keyboard, B for brush, it'll bring up a brush tool. And if you don't have one selected automatically, what you would want to do is select a soft round brush. And then you can use the square bracket keys on your keyboard to increase or decrease the size of that brush. You will want to click the letter D for default, and that will change your default swatches here to black and white. So we'll do that right now, but actually we want black in the foreground. So we're going to click X to exchange them. So if you want black to be the foreground color, the brush color. And what we're going to do is with the layer mask activated, we're going to paint with a black brush over the eyes. So you'll see here, we'll just paint right here, paint right here, paint right here, paint right here. You see that had a big effect. If I zoom in and I undo what we just did, there's before and there's after. Looks a little bit more realistic. Same thing here. Let's paint over the eyes with that, and same thing for this little fellow here. Paint over the eyes. And then what we're going to do is bring the brush opacity down to about 50%. And then we can paint over some of the other details. So if I zoom in here, let's go to the teeth and bring back some of the detail in the teeth, maybe for her as well. For this girl, it's a little bit too much of a painterly look on the nose. So with the 50%, I'm going to go right there and on the teeth as well. And let's go to the little boy over here and do his teeth. That looks good. Maybe her ear looks a little bit too much like a painting. Maybe his a little bit here too. So you can go over a few of the things in the image just to restore some of that photographic quality to it. And that pretty much does it. We have here our Norman Rockwell style painting effect. Again, his paintings tend to work with quirky sort of images. So go through your catalog, take some new photos, and have a lot of fun with this effect. Thank you for choosing Artistry Effects by Photography BB, and happy photoshopping.